Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night on WEMS radio from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can find me live on Facebook and on YouTube with WEMS radio. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G. Each Monday, I come to bring you special guests from all walks of life, from different perspectives, and we come to have conversations. We talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does spirituality support you in your life? How can you use spiritual tools to support you as you go through your life? I talk about a spiritual toolkit, and the spiritual toolkit contains different spiritual practices that work for you. It's personal to you. There's so many spiritual practices out there that you get to choose your own unique practice that works for you. And what I like about it is that you can shift it up. At one point, meditation might be the thing that's really working for you, and then you could go on to start doing prayer. Or you could do a combination of all of them, but it's your personal toolkit. I'm here Monday nights. You can also find me every day on Facebook with spiritual inspirational daily affirmations as Reverend Grenetta Mason. I'm also on YouTube as Reverend Grenetta Briggs Mason. One of the things that I hope that I can provide for you is a way that you can find joy and live your best life all with grace and ease. So tonight I have a really special guest, and we're going to have just a good old-fashioned conversation about what's going on with her, and we'll talk about her spiritual journey. My hope is that during this time we inspire you. You find some things to take away. We give you information that supports you. And Lord knows there's a lot going on now, and we could use all of the support that we could get. My guest tonight is Flo Mitchell Brown. Now, I've known Flo for a long time, right? And I'm so excited that over all the years that I've known her, we get to have this conversation today. Flo is the executive producer and co-founder of the Give Film Foundation, and she's been in the entertainment business for a lot of years. She has 4 fabulous young Black boys, and I'm so excited to talk to her about what's happening with her now. Come on, Flo, let's have this conversation.
Yes. Hello, and thank you for having me, Grenetta. I'm so excited. And the devil's busy out here, girl. He's been a liar trying to keep me from this conversation. But I'm here today.
Yes.
I'm so thankful. So yeah, we got a lot to catch up. So it's like 20 plus years that we've known one another.
I think back too when the one thing I remember is when I first met you and Noah was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see him now, I'm like, Lord, the time has passed, right? That's the right memory, right?
Yes, he's going to be 22 in a couple months.
Yeah.
22. So so we so the business I've been doing in the film and television industry for 30 something years now. I've been doing a lot of faith, taking a lot of faith journey. This has been a faith journey is what I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
So, one of the things that I've learned early on in my life is that you really do have to step out on faith in all your decisions, because if you don't, you're going to miss your blessings, And my motto that I use with my boys and my goddaughters is faith over fear. It's like faith or fear, what you choosing, right? And what I have found is that I always choose faith because I only fear God and what's going to happen to me if I'm disobedient. So I've been very faithful in my journey. When you talk about the toolkit, I love it. I want to share a little bit about my toolkit real quick.
Okay.
So my toolkit is service. I find so much joy. As you know, I used to do a lot of work in Harlem. I got so many godchildren, I can't got enough hands to count them. But just serving and connecting and loving on folks. I just got back from Puerto Rico this morning, and my goddaughter was with me. She's been with me almost 30 years. She's 30 now. I've been with her since she was younger. And she said, "Mama, you always collect people everywhere you go."
Right.
And I said, "I know, if I don't collect them, I can't love them." So on this trip, I collected a young man named Alex. So Alex's story is that when he was 10 years old, his mom died of cancer. And he was thrust out into the world, in a very impoverished world, all by himself. And this wonderful family took him in. I met the daughter of this family at the beach, and got his address. So you already know where this is going.
Right.
But what a beautiful young man. Like, his spirit was so good and so kind. And he didn't ask for whatever his cards that were dealt, but he still has a beautiful smile and a beautiful spirit. So I took his number, of course, and his address, and I want to continue to minister to him in any way that, God allows me to. So what I've been doing lately, let's get to what am I up to? So I guess it's now almost 3 years. I had been on the business side of the film and television industry, as you know.
A long time, yeah.
A long time, almost 25 years. So again, I had one of those faith or fear moments. I chose faith. And with one of my sister friends that I've been friends with for about 30 years, we had always talked about doing some good together and using our power that we've amassed and influence in the industry for some good. So at the time, and I still am, I'm on the board of directors for New York Women in Film, which is a very strong organization. And I'm also the chair of the New York Production Alliance, which is the collective voice of like the whole state of New York film. Everybody who's anybody is involved. And what we do is essentially, if there's a cause, we stand up and we fight for that cause. We also work on job creation. I was also instrumental in starting a diversity task force to try to get more people who are excluded working in not just in the normal positions like producing, directing, but writing, but the below the line. Those are very, very lucrative careers. Anybody listening that has a trade and wants to make a transition, it's a very, very good career. It's one of the few industries left that still has amazing benefits. Pension, health, and what nice pension, and good health benefits and good pay. Somebody that has your back, in the union setting. So we started that a couple years ago, and a few years ago, I made a decision that I wanted to step out on faith and start working on some of these passion projects. And lo and behold, how God just put them right in my lap. So I have another sister friend who is a producing partner, Cecilia. And the first project I executive produced actually was with Noah. When he was a senior in high school, he had a lead in it, and the project was called Unstoppable, and it was a young woman who wrote it. It was about being bullying and suicide, and very powerful. I'll send it to you to share with you.
No, I remember that. Now that you brought it up, I remember it because I've been following you and keeping up with everything that's going on. So once you said it, I was like, I do remember it. Yeah.
So we did that project, and then Caleb, we were in a real storm over here, and during the storm, when you pay attention, when you in the valley, girl, I tell everyone, I'm gonna share this right here. When you're in the valley of despair, we want to rush through it because it feels horrible when you're in it, right?
Right.
But what I've learned with the age and wisdom, my grandma used to try to tell me to slow down, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where you get your best blessings, honey, is in the
Yeah.
valley.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was in the valley dealing with some personal challenges with my eldest, I went through a divorce. So while I'm in the midst of the valley, this teacher calls me and says, Caleb's not in trouble, because Caleb is my mischievous one,
Right.
but I'm sending you this essay he wrote in class today, and if I hadn't known any better, I would have never believed an 11-year-old wrote this.
Okay.
So I read it. It brought tears to my eyes, and it was really one of those aha moments, because Caleb had started, he wasn't even alive when 9/11 happened, but he had this thing where he was really obsessed with it, to the point where they called me. They were worried about him, and like maybe he was going to be a terrorist or whatever.
Yeah.
Downloading all these apps about it. So once I read the essay, I realized my baby's scared. Okay. And then I said, this is what's in his heart. And if this is in his heart, it must be in the hearts and minds of all these other children. All these shootings keep happening.
Yeah.
So I immediately shared it with my partner, Sarad, a couple other people. And girl, it just caught on like wildfire. If I tell you the caliber of people that showed up and showed out to support this film for free. Like one of the my cinematographer won an Academy Award last year. Some of her work. Like that's the caliber of people, because they read it and they said, wow, we got to tell his story, so that's really what happened. And it's been a journey, and then lo and behold, because as you know, my boys have all done some acting growing up,
Right.
and he was cast Caleb the lead as well, and played himself. And it couldn't, as grandma says, it couldn't happen any better if I had planned it. Right. I couldn't even write this. I couldn't even make this up. It's like living the dream. So we put it in the festival circuit last year, right before COVID, and then COVID happened. But most of them were virtual anyway. We won several festivals. Caleb actually won Best Actor in a few. It's still hitting a few. There's a couple more. It's hitting. But I don't really care about those awards. You know what I care about? I care that Caleb's voice is being heard.
Tell them. I mean, I've read about it and I'm waiting to see it. Tell them
I'll
what
send it to you
it's
too.
about. Yes. Tell them.
So basically, he wrote a story about an active shooter in his school, and he put a little twist on it. But it really, I don't want to tell too much and give the plot away. But that's essentially what it was. He wrote a story about his deepest fear. That's what it was. That was his fear. And like I said, I said to myself, wow, how many other parents out here are having those, like, that don't have this total blind spot to what's going on, because they started doing these drills. Yeah.
And when you said that they started doing the drills, and we talked about how COVID had the mental health impact, but think about the impact on the kids, right? And how are we supporting them? And this film is a way to bring awareness to how they're really feeling, and to put, even have the services for them to support them. Thank God you were able to get the message, right?
Right. And there's another piece so where we're at now is that, we had named the film Generation Lockdown, but Caleb's generation is Generation Lockdown, because then they went into the pandemic. Wow. So they went to being lockdown in their schools to being lockdown at home. And you're right. And so what we're doing now is, I've been working with some educators who build curriculum around these type of films, because the goal really is to get do a series of these. Like, we don't want to stop here. We want to lift the voices, and that's part of the reason we started Give Film, is we want to get the voices of those who voices are usually silenced for one reason or another, whether it's, gender equality, particularly young people. So my third project that I have to send you, that we're just starting to go into the circuit, is Blood Hannah, and it's about a young woman wrote it, and it's an Asian American is the character, and it's about her kind of coming of age, but her struggle with her sexuality and her faith, right? And it's deep. I'll send it to you.
Right. Okay.
And so what I was most proud about that project is that we had an all-female crew, and female producer, and like all the little girl with the camera running around the subway on her back, and it really warmed my heart, because it was like, this is what it is. Like, I want to be about that. I want to provide opportunities for young people. I also want to provide opportunities for women, because this industry is not always so friendly to women, and people with gender, anyone who's making choices with their gender are also having struggles and challenges. So this what we're doing is a movement. It's bigger than one film.
That's really good. And how'd you come up with Gift Films Foundation?
Okay. So, oh my goodness. So, many years ago, when we were 12, Sarad and I, we both worked for a company at the same time. And my mentor, who just passed away, we worked for him. And I remember we used to do our water cooler conversations. And when I met her, we always knew there was something special about this woman, and she felt the same about me, and that we were going to do some things. You know what I mean? You ever just meet somebody and you just know? And back then we had made a decision that we were going to make our way in this industry somehow, some way, and then we were going to figure out how to do our big major give back, right? So we were trying to think of a name. That's where the concept of Give Film, because not only are we giving in the, sense that we're creating this content that's giving Caleb a voice, right? The other part of this is eventually, as we connect and get, more distribution and funding, the idea is that when someone has a project, that we can earmark it to, like, let's say, for example, if we were to have, before we filmed and distributed Generation Lockdown, that and it's not too late, we could do it on the back end if we get distribution, make a donation to the Brady organization, that works to get rid of gun violence in schools, and work on creating new laws around gun legislation. So that was what the Give concept came from. It's bigger. It's a give back.
The give back, right? Yeah. That's pretty powerful. When we think about, and you said in your spiritual toolkit is service, so it kind of all comes together, right?
Right. It's the giving, right?
It's the giving and being of service, right? And I like the I always talk about how do we get in certain spaces to make things happen, right? And you being in the film industry and in the places that you are, I like that you are, reaching and bringing in more people that may not have had the same opportunities. So, and I know it's probably been a hard road for you, not hard, but a challenging for you as you navigated your way as a Black woman through this whole industry, right? What kind of advice could you give about navigating to, Black people navigating through this industry, women too in particular?
Well, the main thing that I say, I speak to students throughout the city all the time at career days and such. And one of the things that I tell women, and I also tell people who are different, or I say special because this is something you probably didn't know. A fun fact about me: I had special needs. I was a special needs child growing up, but was not diagnosed until I was a senior in college. And what I tell people is that the reason my brain was wired the way it is because I have a special gift and talent that I can't get down in the minutia of things, but that makes me a natural born problem solver. And because of that, that's my superpower. So what I tell people is figure out what your superpower is and lean into that. Right. And share that with the world, and don't let anybody put you in a box. So for example, like I always found myself getting my hands slapped a little bit when I was in corporate because I always spoke my truth. And I always told people what they needed to hear, not what they wanted to hear. You know, I wasn't going to bullshit people because at the end of the day, that doesn't help a CEO build a company. Right. And in the end, they respect you more. And you got to live in that truth. Like you can't go halfway with it. Right. So you can't let anybody define you. I remember we were in this training when I was an executive and they told us what we were supposed to wear. Right. And when I showed up and I had my cardigan on and I was being critiqued and the white man that used to help Reagan write speeches, let's go there, girl, gonna tell me why I should have had a blazer on. And I said, why? I said, I got my cardigan on. And you know what? It feels really good. You know what I'm saying? I feel real soft and feminine because I'm a female and I don't have to dress like you. You understand? And what I learned is being me is what made everybody else around me feel comfortable with me. My clients, my teams, because I met people where they are. They see me and now they're like, oh my God, that's, you know, they want to hug me. That's grandma. That's her. But not a masculine blazer, right? So that's what I would tell people. If it's just, you know, if you got braids in your hair and you know you got a big knee, and don't take your braids out. Walk up in that room with your braids.
That's so interesting to you say that now. It wasn't like that for me when I was in corporate, right? And I think about when you said about walking there with your braids, I think about how when I have a daughter, you know, Jasmine, and when she was moving through the education arena, and she wanted her hair to be natural, and I fought her, and I was like, straighten that hair, right? Because how are you gonna move? But that was just the whole idea of like try to be exactly what they wanted us to be. I put the suit on, I did the whole thing, right? And I could tell you, even as I think about it today, when I talk about being in integrity and being in integrity in the job, there was no integrity in conforming. But at the same time, like you, I was the rebel because I always found myself on the diversity committee. So what they would do is if you would speak up, then you get to be on the committee, right? That was
I dig it. I dig it. I dig it.
So I love it now that, you know, we take that power to say, no, this is who we are, and we are going to come to you as we are. It's a very powerful move, you know?
Yes. And I have to tell you that it served me well, you know, because at the same time, you know, when the executives used to say they appreciated it, sometimes they would say, ouch, in some of those conversations, right? But they always knew they were getting to the things that they needed, you see? And I got to tell you, like, even going to certain meetings, I just remember being at big meetings and then having the clients come up to me after and saying, hey, I love, how you stepped in the room and the hair. And sometimes I would have crystals in my braids. Like right now I got my butterflies going, but it's like, just be who you are. Don't change. That's what I would tell people. Step into your power and truth and live it, embody it, because at the end of the day, that's when you get up out of here, guess what? It's just you. That's it. You're going to go meet God. So if you don't live your truth and live in your purpose on purpose, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really a big advocate of staying in your truth and not being afraid of challenging and of what is right. Right? Because you, like you said, Granetta, you are a woman of integrity, and being like, that's part of the walk. You got to walk it. You can't just sit around in a room and talk about what you're going to do. You got to do it. You got to be about it. You got to live it everywhere. If you see an injustice, you got to speak up. I was in an Uber one time with another executive, and sadly was a female of color, and was not being very kind to the Uber driver. And I remember, I didn't want to make her feel bad, because I don't like making people feel bad or embarrassing people. But what I said is, hey, I wonder how you would feel if this Uber driver came into your office and started telling you how to do your job. I think we need to let him get us there, because you know what? This is what he does, So sure enough, she kept her mouth shut, and he got us there. Not only on time, he got us there a little early. And she looked at me and she said, Flo, you was right. I said, I don't want to be right, honey. I want you to be right. And how you treat people. That's all I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? Big
I like that, right? It's like you don't want to be right, but you want you to be right, right?
Yes. And guess what? Nothing but respect and love that I, to this day, that I have from that woman. We didn't have no beef. We never had no conflict, but it was a good way of letting her know that we got to be better out here, man. I don't care what you do for a living, how much money you make. This man's out here, he grinding, hustling just like you. He doesn't deserve to be treated that way. And so that's the other part of it, I would say, is, living your truth, but also being mindful of how you treat others, no matter if they're the janitor or they're the president of the company.
Right. Like they said, from the boiler room to the boardroom, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And also when you started, you talked about faith, and faith is faith or fear, you said, right? And that sticks with me, because as we have progressed and gone through these different things in our lives, at each moment we were walking in either faith or fear, right? I mean, we were choosing it, right?
Amen. Amen.
And being like even motivated by fear in some way, right?
Right.
And the whole thing, so it's pretty interesting to think about that those are the two opposites, right?
Right.
Faith or fear.
Faith or fear.
Can you, I know you had mentioned your grandma, but can you give us a little synopsis of your spiritual journey? Like, you grew up and how you come to where you are now spiritually.
Yeah. So I grew up. So I came into the world fighting. Right. My mama had a stroke. Paralyzed from the neck down, lost a lot of her memory. So my grandmama took me and brought me up north, because my dad was in the military. I was born in Florida. And so I spent some of those beginning formative years with grandma. They used to call me Hazel's baby.
Oh, okay.
But what I will say is my parents taught me a whole lot about faith, because when my mom had that stroke, my dad was in the military, And now he has a wife who is paralyzed and lost all this memory, and a newborn baby and 3 toddlers. My grandmama said, I'll take these babies, you can go. And you know my daddy said, he said, where I'm going. This is my wife and this is my best friend. I ain't going nowhere. And he stood by her, and they both had their faith. She rehabbed. Them jokers went back and had another baby.
Whoa.
Okay. Okay. And so then when we moved up north and they bought a house, we really didn't have much. We were very poor. But again, they were also faith walkers. So I remember times when I saw fish and loaves happening at my table, where they were bringing people in, and we look at each other like, how this gonna work? There's 5 of us plus all our house was the house, the cousins, and then they bringing in more, and we're like, hold up now, where we how this gonna work? But it always did. So that's why I said I saw it. It was a living faith within my household. And so what I tell people all the time as I'm weaving through my journey is I don't know no better. I don't know no better. I had a homeless young man living with me. I think, you know, when I lived over there, Gerald and I took kids in. I just recently had a young man. He was one of Kayla's best friends since we lived here, and their family had became homeless and had him living with us for a couple years. And at the time, you know, it was after the divorce, and I was about to lose my house. And I remember my boys gave me that same comment. We were giving my parents, talking about, Mom, how this gonna work?
Right, Mom. What's this?
What you doing? How this gonna work? And I told them what my parents told me. God is gonna make a way. And we got to stand in our faith. And within a year, I got so much testimony, girl. And God just stepped in, and I mean, woo, girl, he showed up and showed out. And he proved to me, or no, he didn't prove nothing. He confirmed, you know, that the faith, that choosing faith over fear. Because I could have cowered under all of that pressure. I could have said, nah, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I ended up with the boy and his grandmother. Right?
Mark.
And I said, nope, this is a faith journey. We got to stand in our faith, boys. And I'm telling you, girl, we did that.
You worked it out.
We did that. So that's, I will say that's my journey. My journey is really these moments and just continuing to choose faith, even though sometimes it is scary, right? We do feel scary when you get to the top of that mountain and you start looking down at how, and you start free falling. It's like you're free falling. You know, that's how I view it. When you take those leaps of faith, when you step out on faith, it's free falling because you're trusting God wholeheartedly. Right? And then the only other thing I would say in my faith journey, I would say that I'm really coming to right now, and you can attest to this being a mom of an amazing young woman, okay? Because I'm watching her glow up too, okay? And you know, we sow those seeds of love, and we keep doing, we nurture that, we nurture those babies. And when them seeds blossom, when you get in that season, and the grace and all that favor, you just be like, okay, God, okay. And that's where I'm at right now, Mama. I really feel that I am in my season. And I'm just, oh, yes, all this grace, all this favor, and even in the midst of all these storms that I'm going through right now, I'm feeling so much grace, and I'm feeling all this favor, and I'm seeing all those seeds that I've sown in these young men.
Mm-hmm. I know, because when I look at these young men and I think about the three I knew, and then there's four. I'm always seeing four now lately,
Right,
right?
right.
Right,
And that
four,
was my
four.
friend Gaynell. One of my
Mm-hmm.
dear friends had cancer and she passed away.
Okay.
That's her
And
baby. He mine. He's
yeah,
mine.
I mean, and I always felt he was your baby too.
That's
You
thank
know?
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. That was always the energy of it all, right?
Amen. God bless. I'm
So,
so thankful you see that.
it's really tough. Can you talk about having four young black men and how in these times and how you raised them and the different things you've taught them? Because I have no idea what that must be like. And over these past few years, also, can you talk about that?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this is where my faith and fear moments get tested, okay?
Okay, okay, great.
So right now I got two that drive.
Mm,
Okay, one of them, the young man you mentioned, my fourth, he goes to school upstate, and every time he's up in Fredonia, honey. So
mm,
every time he leaves here, I'm praying. You
mm,
know what I mean? And he a little spirited one too. So with
mhm,
with the mouth, he's super smart. He's not
mm,
fresh, but
right.
he will definitely challenge you if you're telling
Mhm,
him something that ain't right.
mhm,
So I've been
mhm,
working on him. So we got to keep him in prayer
mhm,
so that
mhm,
he can slay that tongue of his.
mhm,
So yeah, honey, this year's been overwhelming for me. And
mhm,
then my 17-year-old, he for months he didn't even want to go to get his license because of this
mhm,
stuff, because
mhm,
he's afraid. And then just this, I mean, I'm so thankful. So here go those seeds, right?
mhm.
My Noah, he got him a nice little car and everything. Good looking boy. Guess where
Mhm.
he is right now?
Where?
Right downstairs. He
Mm,
don't move around like that, mama.
mm,
So when you know better, you do better.
mhm,
I've created a safe space for him
mm,
to
mhm,
be comfortable and live his truth at home. So he ain't got to run out there. Ain't
mhm,
nothing out there, and he knows it, especially with COVID and then with all the stuff that's going on. I have a rule. I don't, he gonna be 22, soon have
mhm,
his own place, but I tell them, do not be out driving after midnight.
mm,
It's not safe,
mm,
right? Ain't nothing going on out there. So that I have to tell you, if there's one cross that I'm bearing with my faith, is that right there.
mm,
Because and I get very emotional at times because I know how beautiful they are and what good people they are, and it hurts my heart to think that someone would hate them just because of the color of their skin.
mhm,
You know
mhm.
what I mean? And then I
Yeah.
really get fired up when people tell me that they're going to be okay because I raised them. I think you probably saw my post because I usually don't get so
Wound up.
on social
Right.
media. I try to keep it positive,
Mhm,
and I
mhm,
was positive, but I said respectfully, I don't want nobody else saying that to me because in that moment, nobody cares who their mama is. You
mm,
understand that?
yeah.
Nobody cares.
Mm, mm,
All they're seeing is here go. We got us another black boy,
mm,
and he by himself. Let's see what we can do to him,
mm,
or let's arrest him. I'm gonna
mm,
give you a little testimony on that with the seeds.
mm,
So my I'm concerned my power. Let me just get some power because I don't want to
mm,
lose you.
mm,
Um, when Noah was, I think, 18, he got arrested out
mm,
here,
mhm,
and the arrest was it has something to do. He was with one of his friends. Had to do. They said one of his tail lights was out. The light on his plate was out. That kind of stuff. He got arrested, and his friend had some weed.
mhm,
So they got arrested, and then Noah had never been in trouble before. And we're on the same Find My iPhone app. So it wasn't like my baby did not come home. So I knew
mhm,
something wasn't right. So
mm,
immediately I went on the app and I found the location. Sure enough, he was at the precinct. So I called and I said, "Do you have Noah Brown there?" And I went off. I was like, "You tell him I told him about driving after midnight." You know, the mayor was laughing at me. But they went and got, you know what they did? They went and got some Burger King. That's what they did. So he went. I went with him to court. He got, you know, one of those deals where as long as he stays out of trouble, it'll go away. So lo and behold, so here's where the seeds are sowing, girl. Last summer, while we were out of our house, my neighbors, the opportunity came up to buy my neighbor's house. So Noah bought my neighbor's house last summer.
Wow.
But here's the real good stuff, honey. His closing attorney was the judge. That's what I'm talking about. Even the judge got a little emotional because he said, this is not normally how it ends, right? This ain't how the stories are for these young men. Like, he even knows it, you know, a white man, privileged man, and he was overjoyed with that moment, you know, and I was too. And I told Noah, I said, "Go ahead, Noah Brown. That's how you turn things around, honey."
It's interesting too. As I listen to you, you say don't drive after midnight. That feels hard for me too. You know, it's sort of like a rule, a way of still being confined and kind of locked down in that same sense of how you move in the world as a Black man. You know, that whole thing. And as a parent of Black boys, as a mother, you know, yeah, I get when you say that fear moment, and then how do you move to the faith? How do you move from that fear to the faith? And that's when I talk about the practices, the spiritual practices. You know, what spiritual practices do you have that support you? You know, I say the spiritual toolkit, you can go into the box when the moment the fear comes in, and then what do you pull out of your toolkit to use? So I generally have people talk through what would be the top 3 go-tos for you, because as we know, we have many different things in the toolkit. Talk about what will be your top 3 and how they've supported you.
So my top 3 are prayer, staying in my word, you know, and then this whole, see, I believe prayer is an action word. So for
talk
me,
about that as an action word.
So for me, you know, when I rise every morning, I put something positive out into the world. That's the first thing. You see it on social media. But then I have a circle of love of all the lovely people I've collected. I've sent some of them to you, but I'm very respectful. But I will continue to send them to you. I send those daily. And even when I'm on vacation, my daughter, one of my goddaughters said, "Mama, when I had my surgery," she said, why were you still sending your prayers?"
I know, right? I do the same thing.
Right? And I said, "Well, why not? Does God take things off? God doesn't take things off. Why should I?"
Yeah, you keep.
So the toolkit really is all about, it goes back to service. I think I stay in service, right? Because that's really, it gives me so much joy and so much favor to be able to touch so many. Think about that. Like, I counted it up recently. I mean, I'm sending almost 500 texts every morning to people all over the world.
Right. I got my little rate. So it's so interesting. I post on Facebook and Instagram, but then I send texts, but I'm only sending to like 8 little groups, right? So you're saying you're being respectful, and you have 500 people you text every morning.
Yeah, and people, and let me tell you what happens. I have a few comedian friends. Some
Yeah.
of them are pretty famous too.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
got some pretty famous people in my little text. And let me tell you, girl, if I'm late, they
mhm.
send me little funny messages like, oh, what's the matter? You overslept this morning or something, shorty? Or one of them says a lot of people take them and send them. And one
Mm.
of the comedians said, shorty, these babies need their food. You need to come on, get up, girl. What you waiting for? So
Yeah,
I
it's
be feeling pressure, like, oh my goodness.
yeah.
So, and then during COVID, I've had so much testimony about people
Mm,
telling me about days that they couldn't even get up. Like, and I've
mm,
had some of my people in my professional life come to me at events, say
mhm.
they go to my page first thing
To
to
look,
read
yeah.
whatever I put out there. Because here's what, so you know about baby food, you know about solid food and baby food, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So my circle of love, some of them are baby food, but for the most part, they're a little bit more evolved. So what I try to do, and I start sending you the text,
okay.
and if you notice, they all tie in to what I'm putting out on social media.
Mhm,
But what I do with social media is I try to um, break it down a little more, so that the people that are on the baby food can digest it and
okay.
receive it, because I know that everybody's not there, and
Mhm,
they may
different
not be
level.
able to handle, yeah, they may not be
Mhm,
able to handle the solid food. So what I
mm,
try to do is make whatever messaging I put out on social media is a little more softer, but it's going to hit the same point. And then the people who are getting the solids, that's
mhm.
my circle of love, that
Okay, I
show
love
enough
that.
that
Right.
show enough know what's going
Mhm.
on.
Yeah, I love that because every time I think about stopping, then somebody will come and say, "Oh, I read it every morning," or "Oh, I
Yeah,
look
yeah.
for it." Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, "Oh,
And
I'm
then I'll be
looking
like,
for
oh, I
it.
guess I better keep going.
I gotta keep going." Right?
Granetta, you got to keep going. They need it. They need it. And people need it now more than ever, honey.
Mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that, has stepped away from their faith, from church completely. For
Yeah.
some people, they tell me this is all they get. And then
Mm-hmm.
they come to me to minister, like something's going on. They be like, Flo, I need you to pray, and I'll call them, I'll pray with them. But
Mm-hmm.
they have no idea what to do. It's
Mm.
so
And it
sad.
seems like it's just flow naturally for you because when I think about as Reverend G and being a minister and what does
Mm-hmm.
that look like and
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
do I get to be as Reverend G?
Mm-hmm.
How do I support and still be Grenetta, right? And not
Right. You
put
still,
on any
Granetta, your
other
beautiful
things,
soul.
right? Around I like what you said, just supporting people, meeting them where they are,
Mm-hmm.
supporting them in, I say, living your best life. And I talk about
Yes.
finding that
Yes.
joy, right? With so
Mm-hmm.
much going on. What is it that you could do to find that moment of joy? And I always too use the analogy of when you were saying when we're in the valley and when we're in those dark spaces, sometimes more and more comes
Mm-hmm.
on us because you just go. I was like you go down the rabbit hole and there you are. And I think it's
Yes.
the same way with joy. If in those moments, if you can find a
Mm-hmm.
bit of joy, just and then
Mm-hmm.
you'll find yourself rolling into more and more of joy. So it's the same
Mm-hmm.
idea. And
Mm-hmm.
and what does it look like to be
That's
in
right.
joy, live
Mm-hmm.
your best life, and my grace and ease? You talked about grace, and you also talk about slowing down, not running up on it. But we've been through so much, you understand the whole concept of not having to run up on it, right? And I call that the
Mm-hmm.
being part of it. What does it mean to now sit back and have things manifest in your life. And we've learned the faith is also a part of sitting back and not having to run up on it. The faith is not having to do so much, but understanding that in time you will get what you need and want.
Amen.
You know,
and that comes from being, centered in your faith. And like I said, when you're in that valley of despair, you don't fear. You're not supposed to have no fear, no evil, because God is there every step of the way. You know how I equate the valley of despair? This is what I tell. I've done some talks in with some women's groups, and I refer to, the ping pong. Remember the old school ping pong pinball machines? And how the little lights go, they get what you win. So when you're in the valley of despair, it's like you really are it's like the pinball game. You're bouncing all over. You can't see the forest behind the trees. You can't figure nothing out. You're just like, but all those little jewels, those little extra points you're getting, that is the blessings in the valley. But if you don't slow down, if you're ping ponging all over the place, you miss them. And then you're like, well, man, I missed that. And I'll share this last thing. When I was going, after my, we got separated, and I was in one of the darkest valleys I think I've ever been in life. But I got so many blessings in that valley. And guess where they came from? They came from my boys. So Noah, like one day, so every morning when I was dropping them off at school, every morning I pray before we leave that driveway, right? And so one day I was so upset. I got in the car and I had tears in my eyes. I had my head on the steering wheel. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Mommy, I got this." And he prayed us out that morning. Wow. And then another time I was, we had went to church and I had a grocery store delivery and I was putting the groceries away and some milk spilled and I got really upset. I was like, "Oh my gosh, now!" And then Jeremiah has, he's a little on the spectrum and he's like Rain Man and like, "I'm sorry." So all this is going on and little Caleb comes and puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "Mama," he said, "it's going to be all right. We went to church. We got food to put in the refrigerator. Like, what you getting all upset about?" So those type of nuggets, like the ping pong machine, right? The pinball machine would come and it would just slay me in my moment. Like, girl, I'd be like, wow, grandma was right. Because I've been seeing all sowing all these seeds in them throughout their lives. So they were modeling. And another thing, you can't really teach compassion. You got to feel it. And they showed up with such love. And I was like, wow, look at these blossoms. They've just blossomed right in front of me. So I tell people with your toolkit, you gotta when you in that valley, honey, slow down.
Yeah. Look around, because right there, your help is right there when you're there. Right
there. Those blessings are in the valley, honey. The blessings are in the valley.
That is so good. So I am really excited that we got to catch up. But I know everything. You know what I love about social media is that you can keep up with people, right?
Yes. It's a gift and a curse, honey.
It's both, right? Because I'll say, "Hey, Flo," you're like, "Hey," right? And then we just go on. But knowing that connection is still there, and that will always be the connection, even if I haven't seen you in a while. It's spoken to you like one-on-one like this. But I see the projects and our support and such beautiful, beautiful young man. I applaud you.
Thank you, Mama. I'm gonna send you all 3 films.
Okay.
I'll email them to you when we get off. I'd love to hear what you think, and then I will keep you posted on the progress.
Okay, good.
And I'll be happy to come back and see you again anytime. I enjoyed this so much. This
yeah,
did
it
such
was really,
wonders for me too.
yeah, great. So thank
Hmm.
you, and I'll definitely look forward to us looking at seeing the film.
Okay, I'll send it along.
All right.
Okay, and maybe you could get Mr. Caleb to come on and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I will. I would love that.
All
Totally.
right.
All
So
right.
watch it.
I
Okay.
will. All right.
God
Love
bless.
you.
I love you, sis.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Reverend G. It was great having Flo here, and it's nice to catch up and have conversations with my friends and people that I haven't seen. And I look forward to the many different guests that I bring on Conversations with Reverend G. And the goal is to talk about the spiritual toolkit and talk about the items that can go in your toolkit that can support you no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing. And as I said, using spirituality in a practical way. How does it support you day by day? I am Reverend G, and you can find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on YouTube as Reverend Grenetta Mason and Instagram as Rev Grenetta. And you can catch me here every Monday night at 8 p.m. live with conversations with Reverend G. And tonight I would just like to leave you with one thought. Are you living in faith or fear? And I'll see you next week here on WEMS Radio Live. Have a great, great week and live your best life. Enjoy with grace and ease.